yeah, I should win just because you had the Timberwolves in the 8th seed.
Vasilevsky's been playing really well, and the Lightning have a great offense.
Yeah, it was a tremendous shot, and I've come to expect it from LeBron. I would say I wish the best for the Red Sox, but as a Yankees fan, that's really hard for me to do.
The biggest addition to me is Jalen Brunson.
Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and that's all I have to say. He's still a top 5 quarterback in this league, and there's nothing really anyone can do about it.
Why'd you have to name him? Like, seriously? Like, thanks, man.
Who would have thought 5 years ago that the Clippers and Nets would be facing in the finals?
How is Joe Burrow going to get the ball to them if his butt is already on the ground?
Crazy. And for the fans at home,
Hello, I'm Cy Mendenhall, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. We appreciate you listening, and to the man that I texted as I was in the stadium and wondering what happened and his thoughts, Austin.
Yeah, I usually don't get too angry or riled up during sports events, but even though I was unbiased and I kind of was rooting for the Cowboys at points in that game, it was just a horrible blunder, and I just can't believe that the first thing that was brought up by whoever was the ref, like, that was in the booth, the first thing that was brought up was that it wasn't that there was like 18 other penalties that could have been called on the play. It was just so to correct for it. They said that there were so many other fouls, and me and the people I was watching it with went back and looked at it, and could not see the other fouls. And then just to come out that it was he didn't hear him, even though there's video proof of the guy walking up. Luckily, I did see the post that this reffing crew will not be in the playoffs, apparently, after multiple gaffes this year. But it's just a horrible mistake to make in one of the biggest games of the year. Like, you can't argue that's not. The Lions at this point, if they had won that game, would have been the 2 seed this right now. So it's just horrible.
Yeah, and I think the thing, because I was thinking about it, and like I mentioned to you, there was a tripping call, and then I was just like, oh, getting into it, like, and you had made the argument, which was fair, was like, well, that still could have happened. And this is the thing where I was thinking about, yeah, you can talk about players missing chances, but that's on the players. This game was affected by the ref and his blunder. And it's like they've admitted it was confusion. We can talk about it a little bit more, but it's frustrating to see that it wasn't the player's fault. There are what if scenarios that are based on the ref's mistake instead of the player's mistake, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And a bigger problem, and look, I'll give Cowboys partial credit that maybe they didn't guard 68, even though there were people next to him, because they said that 70 was eligible. But at the same time, you can't blame the Lions. It's not their fault at all. The guy walked up to him and did his job. That is what you're supposed to do. It is, again, they right after the game had ended, they had multiple interviews, and basically all of them said it was on the player's fault. He has to make sure. Well, bro, if you need me to scream in your face as a ref, and then everyone's gonna come guard me now. Like, the point is, I tell you, you tell the other team I'm eligible, and then we do the play. That is what the rule is. I don't have to scream in your face. It looked like they had eye contact in watching the video. There's no excuse for them making it to where it's the player's fault, and the Lions are not at fault for what happened.
I see what you're saying. There's a part where I was listening to Jeff Schwartz, who's a former Lion, talk about it, and he's like on the side. He's like, "This is a procedural issue. It's totally the ref's fault." But the Lions tried to confuse the Cowboys, and that's why I've seen headlines too.
But
because they sent 3 linemen to confuse the Cowboys.
This isn't the first time this play's done before. This is not the first time in NFL history this play's been done before.
No,
I watched it in college earlier a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, no,
this is not
I'm
the first
talking
time
about
it's happened.
They sent 3 linemen to the ref, so the Cowboys wouldn't understand.
If you watch the video, 68 points at himself and says, "Look at my number. Look at it, please." Like he's wiping his shirt like, hey, it's me.
Well, yeah, wiping is a part of it too. I'm trying to see the video because apparently, because 70 had done it before, and then they were going, no, 68 is eligible, which he was, or he was supposed to be, and the refs just went on autopilot. The thing is, they didn't have to send 3 linemen
No, but
up to the ref.
the 70, if you watch the video, never comes to the lineman. He's coming in late. He never goes up to the lineman. It was Panay, Sewell, who's 58, and 68 were by the lineman. 70 was coming in late. 70 never came to the lineman. If you watch the video.
Okay, I'm trying to see the video. There's one because Jeff Schwartz mentioned how the guy came in with his hand raised and his hand on his chest. And that's one way, or you have to rub down your number and with your hand.
That's what
signal you're
68 did.
eligible. Okay. But that's the part where I can see they were trying to mess with the Cowboys, but still the refs should have known better. And like Dan Campbell said, he met with the refs before. The thing was Brad Allen wasn't in that meeting.
I don't care. Like that it's there's just no excuse to have that big of a blunder. Like there's no excuse.
Yeah. There's no excuse. Absolutely. Like it's on the ref. He should have been focused.
And here's my biggest problem. This is look, while it's still not as big as the Rams Saints because of the moment, or I don't think it's as bad as the Packers Seahawks game where the Packers guy obviously caught a pick, and then I think it was Doug Baldwin like grabbed the ball, and then they eventually called it a touchdown. The Packers lost off of that back when the refs were on strike. The problem with this, Kevin, it's not a judgment call. It's not a did he grab his jersey? Was it a catch? This isn't a judgment call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That flag is
absolutely.
because he made a mistake.
Yes, and it's
not
absolutely.
balls and strikes. It's he told you he was eligible and you didn't hear him or pay attention.
Yeah, you confused it with the other guy. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great. It's not like a holding call too. It's this is part of the rule and you messed it up.
Yeah, it just again, it's not a judgment call. It's like if I'm trying to think of another analogy to put it in.
It's probably maybe
Goaltending.
calling 2 seconds.
What?
Oh, okay, never mind. It's calling someone. It's calling someone out for 3-second rule when that you counted to 2 seconds. If that makes that would how
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Or saying that it's well also like I guess those still could be. It's just a how do I put it? I remember a perfect example, and I know an example of this that actually happened. You probably don't remember it. It was a regular season game between the Rockets and the Spurs, and James Harden had dunked the ball, but it came out really weirdly after the dunk and looked like he missed it. The Spurs grabbed the ball and start playing offense because they didn't see it go in. The refs didn't see it go in. But when you watch the replay, he dunked the ball like it went in the hoop.
I remember this.
It's not a judgment call. The ball went in the hoop, and the Rockets end up losing the game by like 2 points.
I think I remember there was like a petition that they redo the game.
Yes, something. From that point. Yeah. But it's not a judgment call. Like the ball went in the hoop. You can't say it didn't go in the hoop.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, it was just terrible, and it does affect the playoff seeding, but yeah, so
it's potentially massive. It's potentially it affects multiple teams. Not just the Lions, not just the Cowboys, but the Eagles. The Eagles would still be leading the division.
Yes.
And they'd pretty much have it guaranteed because I don't think they're going to lose back-to-back games.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, and this kind of goes into there's those what-if scenarios that the players' actions didn't cause. It was the refs' mistake. And it wasn't a judgment call either, as you mentioned. So yeah, I don't know. Apparently, they said they're not going to fix it or anything, or they're just going to be like, yeah, no. They're just going to do that. I think, like, just have a mic or recording on the
They
ref?
do. There's recording of him
Okay.
saying 70.
Man, that's crazy.
There's a recording of him saying it.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's again, it's one of the worst. It's third worst. It's really close with N'Keal Harry. You remember that play where N'Keal Harry doesn't? It's a phantom out of bounds, and he scores a touchdown, but he doesn't go out of bounds. Patriots versus Chiefs. The Patriots didn't have any challenges left. I think it was a 4th down and goal, or something happened. And N'Keal Harry, it was in 2019, the last year with Tom Brady at the Patriots, and he scores. And they would have got the 1 seed that year if N'Keal Harry had scored the touchdown, but he didn't score it because the refs caught him out of bounds. But he was not even close. It was a whole 4 inches in bounds, but they didn't have any challenges left, so the Chiefs got the ball. So, that was pretty egregious too. I mean, it's just, my thing is, I brought up to the people I was watching with, what if that happened in the Super Bowl?
Dude.
But the person I was watching it with brought up, there's so much gambling on games now that how much money was lost and won, but lost based on that call. And again, with how much gambling is being pushed by the NFL itself, you can't have these calls. You can't have it. You can't have it.
I really, that's a point I did not think of, and that's a great point and an incentive for why the NFL would change it.
Yeah, it's. I don't know what you tell, again, because this is my point as well that I made. I'm going to tell you 2 things. We'll start with this one. 70, if he had made a mistake, he's a backup lineman. If he actually was his fault, he probably gets cut. If you remember the Packers versus Seahawks 2014 NFC Championship game, the Seahawks onside kick it and the Packers don't get it. It went right through a tight end's hands, literally both of his hands. Immediately the next day is cut, and I don't think he ever gets signed again. And I'm not going to say that's. I mean, he made the mistake. I'm not going to say he deserves not to be in the NFL again, but the cut, the punishment is warranted for him, right? Because he didn't make the play. The ref never has that. The ref is not going to. His job is not on the line. 70s is. If he actually did make that mistake, he would probably be cut. He's a backup lineman. But that's it. That time, it's not warranted. 70 does not deserve to get cut because it wasn't his fault.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. And yeah, I remember that Packers game. And yeah, the guy probably would have. I remember the guy getting cut, and I thought he wasn't supposed to jump or something, but he did.
Well, he just didn't catch it. It doesn't matter. Just catch the ball.
Yeah. But yeah, and then what was the second point?
The second point is that these plays, not only does it determine 70's job, it determines incentives. It determines, hey, some people, if they win a certain number of games, get an extra $1 million. Certain people, if they get a certain seed, make $1 million. If this was a playoff game, winning a playoff game gets you it gives you a player bonus. And for those guys on the fringe of the team, losing that $500,000 you would get matters. You're playing with not just somebody's career in the case of 70, but an entire team's incentives.
Yeah.
Getting 2 playoff. Think about it like this. The owner of Detroit could have got 2 home games, but now it's just going to get 1. The amount of money he loses just from that call. Again, it goes outside of what the ref should be able to control or impact. And it's just a problem I have with, again, I'm not saying that refs need to be interviewed after the game. That's fine. Refs don't have to be interviewed. But I do think a representative, maybe someone who doesn't make a call, maybe just a representative has to answer. He understands what happened in the game. He's already talked to the refs, right, to understand, hey, why did you think this? Why did you think this? Why did you think this? And this representative is who they interview after the game. Somebody has to be accountable for something. And that's just not the case in this case.
I like where you're going, and I agree with you. I am in favor of interviewing refs. I think they should be, and it seems because I remember I was talking to someone, we got into it. I'm like, they should be interviewed, I don't understand why not. But it seems like there was a pool report where it was that tweet. It looks like because he interviewed Brad Allen and he asked him that question. You saw what Brad Allen said.
He basically said that it was 70's fault and that he did nothing wrong and he's perfect. That's
Yeah.
basically what it was. And again, I hate that. I hate when people don't. I hate when people make mistakes and don't take responsibility. People are human; they're gonna make mistakes. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with acting like it's 70's fault because it isn't. It isn't his fault.
Yeah, no, it's not his fault. But to me, that gives information about the ref to the reader and people listening to
Yeah,
it.
that he thinks he's perfect.
Yeah. And there's a part in it where he said 70 had done it multiple times, which shows like he was just like assuming, yeah, 70's reporting is eligible. So I'm in favor of refs being interviewed. And it seems like they are. But that's something. Yeah, so it looks like they do a report on controversial things. So I am in favor of them giving it because it gives you the reasoning and you get to see why they did it and you can determine if they did it wrong. As you and I both agree, he did it wrong. That's my thing. And then I'm trying to think if refs do need to be better. And they're gonna make judgment calls, but it's this type of stuff that just
Yeah,
cannot
I'm
happen.
okay with it being called a catch when it's not a catch, but it's on the borderline. And while I may not think it's a catch and they call it a catch, like it's not the end of the world. Or maybe it's a weak foul, but it's still a foul. So it is what it is. No, this is this is bad. Again, this
Oh
is
yeah.
this isn't making a error. This is putting in the wrong number to pay the bank or something like that. Adding an extra zero. Like this is like if you made this decision in an accounting firm and made this mistake because you assumed that the company bought this when they actually bought this other thing, you're getting fired immediately. It's only when you're a ref can you make a mistake like this and it not be major consequences.
And did you moving on and talking about how this had playoff seeding? I believe there's a lot of playoff seeding relying on if the Steelers beat the Ravens, correct? Or if the Steelers lose to the Ravens.
Yeah, a lot can be there. We'll touch on that on our week 18 craziness because
Whoa.
that
I'm gonna bring it to this because do you know who the ref is for that game?
is it Brad Allen.
Yes. The NFL just assigned
I
him.
just don't understand how he has a job. And that's nothing against him personally. It's just if any other job had made that brutal of a mistake, any other job, if I made that mistake at a job, I deserve to be fired. That is a fireable offense. Because again, it's not a judgment call. It's not a, okay, which stock should I invest in? I'm looking at them. I don't know. They're both really close. I picked this one. I'm wrong. That's not going to get me fired. That was a judgment decision, and I made the wrong judgment. Okay, get better next time. No, this was me paying the landlord of the building that we rent $1 million more than I should have, and now the company is going bankrupt.
And yeah, I agree. So we'll see how it goes. And it does look, I found more information about the pool reports. It seems like it's one reporter goes and interviews the game official or league official to answer questions about in-game officiating. I like that. I wouldn't mind if it turned into a press conference, similar to what coaches go through, where you just because one reporter can have one idea, different reporters have different ideas. So I know that might be a controversial thing, but to me, I don't understand why. Like, refs are human, and it just gives more information on explaining the call. So, to me, it doesn't make sense to just say, like, the refs don't need to answer questions when I do think they do need to answer questions, and it's part of their job. So, that's my thing. So it does look like they do answer questions about their in-game officiating.
Yeah. Again, when their decisions make so much of an impact, they should have to answer for it. Again, people make mistakes. I'm totally okay with that. It's after the fact, him still standing on the fact that it's somebody else's fault. That's what makes me not feel bad for the guy. I would feel it again. I make mistakes, you make mistakes, everyone makes a mistake, even if it is that type of mistake where we're just not listening, not paying attention. I've made that mistake before many times. Well, I've done that on tests or anything else. But it's okay, I made the mistake, not the teacher tried to confuse me. I just made the mistake. No, he's trying to blame somebody else. And that shouldn't be in the league. These are professionals, right? And professionals need to be professional. And that is not is when you're blaming somebody else for the mistake that you made.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's fair. Yeah, so that, and I'm not a huge fan of like the call talking about refs, but this wasn't a judgment call. It was um the word that just keeps coming that Jeff Schwartz used was procedural, and I'm like, that's a great word. So that's all I got. Any final thoughts before we close it out?
Nope.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and be on the lookout for more episodes from Outsiders Opinions.